All right. Hello, everyone. This is our November the 8th regularly scheduled engineering meeting from the Duluth Community Service District. And I'd like to now call this meeting to order. Are there any public comments, Jessica?
No.
Okay, good. Well, let's go on then, and I reviewed the minutes of our last meeting. I have no changes. Do you have any?
None.
Okay, then those are approved as they're written. And we're right off and running on Buena Vista.
All right, so good afternoon, everybody. So as you can see, looking outside right now, it's been pretty rainy today and yesterday, basically. So Buena Vista they were basically planning on getting started this week, but then they looked at the forecast basically and realized, there's no way, and there's no reason to get out there right now when we know it's gonna be raining 3 out of the 5 days. So they're planning on starting by next week now. So they're gonna start on Monday is the goal right now, but even though they haven't started, and this is signs that we may have a good contractor on board, but we haven't seen anything yet, but they're going out there. We're still having their foreman go out there and he's checking the site, seeing everything that's going on. And he's met with Rod, our inspector, out there multiple times, and they've gone out there with our geotechnical consultants just to make sure, any recommendations that are made out there. They've been talking on the field basically and going through it. So even though they haven't officially started any of the work yet, they are ready to go. And just basically, it looks like on Monday, they will get going full speed, and that weather and permitting, of course, I can't predict any of that work, but they're basically ready to go. They're actually chomping at the bit to get out there. So we're looking forward to it. But for now, that's basically the brunt of the update for Buena Vista. They're ready to go, but weather permits.
Good input.
Now, you mentioned Raj. I don't think this has occurred in between. I'm not sure that you guys know what he's talking about. They've appointed our inspector for both jobs.
Oh,
And his name is Raj.
Okay.
And you're gonna hear about him because he's a real go-getter. This guy, I met him a week and a half ago. His name's come up 10 times since, because he's out and about. We ran into Debbie on the street, okay, and he introduced himself. But he's a very active inspector.
wonderful.
So I've been really, he comes into my office, just walks right in. I got to ask you about this. Yeah, so that's what I like. I said, don't ever hesitate, just come in,
Right.
So that's a very good sign. And also Jason Brown, who was the construction manager last time for Sandia Creek,
Right.
which I was real pleased with him.
Yes.
And he's back.
Good.
He's running.
Yeah, I
both of
heard
these
you
jobs.
expected him, yeah.
And we were hoping, keeping our fingers crossed, but I just wanted you to know that since we met last, those two things have occurred. And also Raj is working with our crew to give them a bit of an education process, because there's a lot of stuff going on out there. And so he understands that they're relatively new. So he's he's been in contact with you, I've heard.
Yeah.
And
That's great.
and kind of showing them, what they're looking at. So
Yeah.
anyway, get some education out of them.
Yeah, we're definitely, and we've been copying TJ on a lot of the emails, so he sees what kind of submittals that go back and forth until he sees what's going on. So he's been there and just to keep him involved on that. And Raj is very, as you were saying, he's very active. I always wonder how he can be in two places at once, because it seems like he's always right at the right spot at the same time. So
Great.
but he's very active and makes sure he keeps them all in line. And then Jason, he works for Jason, who he's been the main guy over in our construction group for 20, 30 years now. So it's
Are
good hands.
both of those involved on the reconstruction as well?
the Buena Vista job.
Well, the same, the Raj and Jason. They're also involved on them.
Correct. They're gonna, and that's kind of a little bit of a cost savings that we got by having the same inspector right there. We're having the same team basically work both jobs. Worked out well where they're going on concurrently right now. So they're gonna be managing both contractors right now. So they're used to managing multiple at a time. That's nothing out of the ordinary. So they're definitely good.
Is it likely there's going to be some equipment and crews shared between the two
They would not be able to share any equipment or crews just because it's two separate contractors.
Okay.
Now, luckily, or not luckily, but last time we were lucky enough when Marietta did both the FEMA jobs and the Sandia Creek that they were kind of sharing crews between the two.
Yeah, I knew we
And
were.
that made it a little more, little different, but, you know, the way that these contracts work out, it's low bids
Okay.
competitive and, so they cannot share crews, but they have actually been entertaining the idea of, sharing material where like if they're cutting in one area
Right.
on the pavement job and they can bring it over, you know, right now, Buena Vista is a giant hole in the ground. So if we can get that fill approved and used, of course, it is a blue line stream, so we gotta make sure it's clean fill, before we throw it in there, so.
Right.
Not everything's gonna be usable, but they have been coordinating with each other, so that's basically us ways, little value savings that we get in the field, and that's actually stuff that was brought up by our inspector to make sure that that's, you know, they don't just inspect the job, they try and look for any cost savings or value that the district can get as a whole, so. That's everything we are entertaining, so they can't share crews, but they can, any material that they take out of the site, work with each other to kind of see what we can use. That makes sense.
Very good. Okay, well, let's move on to rehabilitation then.
All right, so I think hopefully Jessica can pull up the presentation, but if not, I did print it out right here. For everyone, I think Steve and I are gonna have to share here.
Sure.
Actually, I got enough. I doubted myself for a second. All right. So this one, on the slurry job, you may have all seen someone out there, but we have started construction as of last week, basically. They've been out there doing all kinds of work. So you have been seeing you know, crews out there, I'm sure, hopefully, from what I'm hearing, they're doing a good job so far, and we haven't had any complaints of any kind yet. But that's because we're keeping them in line as best we can, but they've been great to work with so far. Again, these are the same guys that did all the slurry last year, so they're very familiar with the district and all the policies we had that hashed out while we were coming on. So they have been doing a great job. And the first thing I'll start with is the schedule of what they have done so far. And the bottom right on the screen there, you can see that they did all the weed spray and crack fill. Basically, the first portion of the job, that's just, you know, cleaning out any cracks and then filling them up basically. And then they put weed spray in there to make sure any of the vegetation gets killed before they clear all those cracks so it doesn't come right back up.
Right.
Through the pavement. So basically they've been going around, and as you know, everything's scattered around. But right now, the biggest thing they've completed is that weed spray and crack fill. And they've also, the main thing is Avenida del Oro, there's a big repaving that's, you know, I don't know if you guys remember the pavement that was out there, but it was pretty bad, a lot of alligator cracking. And this was one of the main priorities actually that we wanted to get taken care of. You know, that's almost one of the main entrances into the whole district, basically. That's where most people are coming from. So we did take care of that. And now they did finish most of the paving on that. I think they finished actually 100% of the paving as of yesterday for Avenida del Oro. And from what I'm hearing, they actually got good reviews on that, so they're doing a good job on that. And also, they're doing a lot of the patch repairs right now. That's what's been going on, various patch repairs. The kind of the order of operations is they go in, they fix all the patches, and then next thing you know, they're gonna come around and do the slurry after. So they get all the patch work done first, and then the slurry will come later. But as you can see, here's a tentative schedule. They haven't fully updated based on the rains coming up, but this is what we think that everything's gonna be shifted. But if it rains more, we could have a little more. But it looks like they're, you know, based on looking at the schedule and what we're seeing, I think they're gonna be done around, hopefully before Christmas, around mid-December, is what we're expecting. They even think a little earlier. I'm not as optimistic as them. I know there's gonna be a little more time, and so I think around mid-December we're gonna be there for the end time basically. But they're hoping to get the slurry work done around the time of Thanksgiving. So then they have to wait to strike basically. So that's what we're looking at now. We're hoping that by the end of the year we'll have the freshly paved slurry roads, as long as everything goes to schedule right now. So it's going well. But with that said, we can go to the next slide. Now I'll just give you this is going to be a little show and tell, just to show everything that's been going on out there and kind of help you visualize exactly what's going on in the field. So right now here is the first step. When they're doing a full repair, basically they're going to basically mill the whole roadway right now. So you can see the milling machine going out. They kind of take all the asphalt grindings, and you can see it a little bit ahead of a better picture where it just dumps all the millings into that haul truck in front of it. And then if you go to the next slide here, that's kind of, the next step, you know, they grind everything out, and the way they, you know, we defined all these limits on the plans, basically, of what areas need a full repair and what areas you can make a slurry. Right here, you can see they have the jut out, and there was some edge treatment done right there. But after they grind it all out, they put it, you know, they're gonna fill it in with asphalt in certain lifts, 1-2 inches, but, so, they go through, do a couple of lifts, and then if you go to the next slide, you'll see that it's not very compacted yet. The next step, they're gonna come in, this is their roller right there. They take the roller, kind of go it in back and forth a couple of times, a couple of rolls, a couple of spreads each way, basically. And that's how they get the maximum compaction. We wanna make sure it's 95% compaction in all these roadways. And we had our geotechnical engineer testing with a nuke gauge, which basically just sends out signals through the pavement and gives a reading back of how well compacted the dirt is underneath. So that's basically kind of the simple broken down, but as you can see, all the roads right there, they're getting done. So we'll go to the next slide here. Now, this is a bit more, this is them again milling, but this is a better picture of, you know, when they mill, they chip everything up basically, and they take it in that haul truck. When that haul truck fills up, they'll have another one right behind it that just kind of scoops in, and then they take it out, take everything off site, which they're required to per the contract. And you could also see right now, one of the requirements for, you know, busier roads and just basically the requirements in general is to keep one lane of traffic open. You can see what they do have their traffic control set up. You have one lane functional right now. And there's been minimal interruption to any traffic just because they do have flaggers on each side. Making sure everything's safe to go through, but you can see they can do this work while keeping one lane of traffic open. Now, if we go to the next slide here. So this is kind of what it looks like. I know they compact I showed you compaction of the asphalt, but this year, every time that they expose any dirt, basically, it's their responsibility to what we call scarify and recompact the dirt underneath to make sure that the problems, there's no water getting underneath, that they basically dig that up and then top 12 inches and then recompact it. So that's what they're doing right here. And you can see that because of their sequence operations, they're able to just go to the center line, and that's usually where the crown spot is. So they have that existing grade, tie right back into it. So that's the best way we're doing it. And then if you go to the next slide, then the asphalt truck's gonna come in. They you know, it's gonna dump the asphalt in. You have the hand crews down there spreading it as best they can before the next roller comes in.
Right.
But that's just kind of a, you know, it's a good thing to see in that, you know, you got, always like showing the pictures of the list, you always got the beautiful hills in the background and everything. It makes it a nice place to do construction, I guess. But, so if you go to the next slide, so this is kind of, you can see the finished portions all the way up there and how long of a stretch they have done. This is, remember, only about a week and a half in. So they've been working hard out there trying to get, because it's their, you know, of course they got to do it right, and inspectors making sure of that, but it's their goal to get in and out as soon as possible. They don't want to disrupt traffic any longer than they have to. So you can see that they dump it in, and that's kind of the, you know, even on the hills, they're able to get all this done in kind of a large scale like that. And so, and then if we go to the next slide, that's just another view of just showing kind of the limits, and then the roller truck right behind it, kind of compacting everything. Seeing our hard work being done. And you can see in front, you know, it's all milled right there, and then they're gonna have a final section right there, so. And then next slide here is just a traffic control being set up. You got the flagman on one side. He's basically letting people go through on the other side. Right now they're going away from him, and there's another guy with a walking truck on the other side. But that's just showing kind of safety first, and making sure they're being safe at all times out there and trying to let traffic go through as best they can. I think I have one more. All right, now here's what they're going into the next. When they're not doing a full dig out, basically, you know, we have all those cracks right now. Here's the crack filling machine, and here's the crew. He has this magic wand right there, as we call it. And just have the Craftco truck basically in front of them, just letting out all that asphalt binder, and they're gonna just spray every crack. And as you can imagine, it's a bit of a tedious job. They're going to touch basically every crack in the roadway. And as you know, there's a good amount. So that takes a few days. They're able to get most of the crack filled, if not all, done right now. And I think everything's kind of filled. So you're gonna see all the black tar marks, but you know, next step, they're gonna take everything and slide right over that. You're gonna see everything will be a finished, clean surface. And even when they're, you know, you see patchwork being done, only like one section of the roadway right now is different color. But when they go back with the slurry machine, it's gonna all be one uniform color. Right. And look like brand new roadways for the time being, and buys us another
Approximately
7
how big
years.
is the slurry?
How big is it?
How thick is this?
So the slurry is usually around you know, a quarter to an eighth of an inch, basically. So it's not too much. Like, you're not, even if you drove over it, you wouldn't even notice. And that's why, like, even like when you pull up to a driveway, they don't have to do any ramping up to go to a driveway. Access is pretty good, and they can have these roadways open within 4 hours usually after, but it depends on the cold. And that's why I think their schedule right now is a bit aggressive, that our inspector's gonna be looking at it, but
You know, what I'm familiar with down in San Diego was more like a paint.
what's that?
What I'm familiar with down in San Diego, on the streets in San Diego, was more like a paint.
Yep, exactly. You don't
Talk
even.
about painting the road.
Well,
Exactly.
but what we're using is a thicker, material to, what I consider paint.
Yes.
Because there was a time that they just painted them. And that's what they do in parking lots, HOA streets and stuff like that. Ours is a thicker, lot more, sand.
Yes.
Well, more of sand, yes, it's actually, they measure it by percent. You have more sand, it fills the holes a little bit better, so that's why it's, even though it is thin, it's still filling all the holes, of course.
And it also keeps that new look for a lot longer.
Correct.
The first time dust settles on the paint, it looks like an old road again.
Yep.
Yeah, that's true.
But that's basically my update, and they said our inspection crew is out there diligently watching them, and he's doing a great job so far. We have no real issues, and they've even come to us with some potential cost savings. I don't want to get that, but it's looking like they're going to be a little ahead. They were able to get almost double the full patch repairs in by because they went out to the field, they found out that the dirt underneath is actually in better condition than we anticipated. So they were able to reduce the section a little bit and spread it out a little more. And then right now they're coming in a bit under, but I don't want to get anyone too excited too early because they never know what's going to happen where we have to.
If we ended up in that situation, is it our policy or the normal procedure to accept the savings or extend the work to cover more work?
That's that's a decision that we made at the higher, I guess, at this level right here on this kind of table, if we are, but right now we don't have enough, we don't know exactly what the savings are gonna be. But last year, we actually did come in, because everything did come in low, we were able to expand the limits and get more done. And that's basically a policy decision, if you wanted to save money or if you wanted to get more road out. That's
Given the
something-
amount of work that we have to do, my preference would probably be to get more done, but
Yeah, of
it's
course.
only gonna be more expensive in the future.
I
I
agree.
agree.
But we'll get to that point when we get to that point.
Yeah, we'll have a better idea, and that's kind of, we always leave time at the end of the contract for what we call the closeout periods, and that's where we're checking everything. There's time in there to add more, so we'll have a better idea, definitely at the next board meeting. What that would be, so. Do we have a board meeting in December?
8 days from now.
Well, we're not sure.
Okay, all right. But yeah, we'll definitely have a better idea, in the next couple following weeks, as soon as that, if we are gonna have them.
Yeah, right.
So, but again, you don't wanna, because in construction, you never know what's gonna happen the next day when you step on the field. You
Sure.
don't wanna commit to something before we know if we have all the money to do everything. So
Totally.
right now, everything's looking good. It looks like we may come in just a bit low.
I have one question, and it's just because since I came in engineering later, you know that area of Sandia Creek, that's new road that looks like it's coming up? You know, it's all cracked. When you go down Sandia Creek, it was
I'm not sure if I know
repaved
what's
at
there.
one time, and it's all kind of buckly a little bit.
What's the nearest cross street?
Well, probably between, I would say, Carancho and El Prado. Right in there. If you look at the road, it's pretty.
I'm clearly not getting out enough because I'm through.
You may not know. I just remember
I'll
when they,
pay attention
when
to
they
it.
did the road on Sandia Creek.
Yeah.
Before our time, it looks like it buckled or whatever, and I was just wondering if that was being, do you know what I'm talking about? The one?
I think I'm a little lost, but I'll definitely
Okay.
go down there tomorrow. and take a-
No, I don't want to, I just was wondering if that part was being done at all.
Just so I understand, this wasn't part of the last year's job or Sandy Creek job, was it, or?
I don't think so. You know, I'll maybe take a picture. It looks to me like
Warranty.
it was done on one of the previous boards, I think.
Is that little bridge?
There was a section that was done just west of Deanza that
Yeah.
was buckling up.
Yes,
That section got done with the dirt job last time.
okay.
With the bridge down there.
Huh?
On the bridge.
But it's still there now, what you're talking about.
Yeah, what I'm
You're
seeing is
saying
still
something
there.
still
I'll pay
There
more
were-
attention
there
where.
were some-
I'll pay more attention next time.
I've heard about this. You're talking about maybe 7 years ago?
And
They
they-
did some
Mhm.
repaving, some overlays,
And it came,
because I remember when Dave first came here,
Mhm.
he and Keith went out and looked at a couple of these areas they did, and the words like buckling or
Mhm.
whatever. And Dave shook his head and didn't say much, then said to me, but I wasn't there, but when he came back, he said, that's not the way I would have done those overlays.
Okay.
So I suspect it might be.
So what
some-
I'm talking about,
Because the one that I remember them talking about was Via Vaquero.
it might be
And it's
closer
like,
to. Yeah.
that
it
one
looks
I
like-
did see, because
Mhm.
Dave and I later went and we said, this is one of these, and I think it was about 7, 8, 9 years ago.
It was a while, yeah, and I just was wondering if that was gonna be, but you know what, next time I'll notice, I'll take a picture. It's
Yeah,
nothing
yeah.
urgent. I just was wondering if,
Yeah.
yeah, but it, yeah, they did repave and I don't know what they did, but within a year it was,
And
yeah,
that's-
that's the
what it
one.
was.
That's
It's
Well,
the
it'd be interesting to look back at the survey that was done for the roads were classified, as I recall,
Yeah.
a few.
The paver.
Yeah.
favor data, that's from
And,
2016, so that might,
Well, let's find this
Yeah.
location and let's use it as a.
Okay, I'll get some pictures.
Because, yeah, we've got data. I
Mhm.
forgot about that,
Right.
Mhm.
that we can see what paper says about those sections.
Yeah.
and just to kind of clarify, if it is buckling or any kind of work like that, that is much more than a slurry or a.
I figured it
overlay
would
job.
be.
That needs, you need to rip that base out basically all the way down, probably 10 inches around.
But I
get to the
suspect
bottom
they
of that.
did not.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think now it's all coming back, that they needed to go way down. and-
Yeah. See, I don't know who, I just remember it being done and everyone going, hey, isn't this just?
Yeah, no, yeah. And back then, they weren't using the they didn't have the engineering capabilities that we
No, I
have. They
don't
were just using engineering just case by case.
Yeah,
And that's.
I just think it's gonna get worse if we don't address
It
it. so I
probably
will.
will. Yeah.
I'll
Well,
take
yeah,
a
let's
picture.
use this as a test case.
Okay, I'll
and
take
see.
pictures.
We can research it back.
Thank you. I guess we're ready to look at the engineering project that we're often investigating.
Sure. Yeah, pretty little slideshow here.
Oh.
All good. Doing 2 more roads this time.
We're
I think you covered 2 roads last time.
we're doing 2 more. Yeah, next slide. So we're now gonna look at Camino Estribo and Los Gatos in this report. Next slide. And this is what we were, same thing from last time. Next slide. Next slide. All right, so here's Estribo, gives you an idea of the pavement condition, the berm, the guard railing, the raised pavement markers, the center lines, edge lines, generally it's in pretty decent condition, so again, it's a very low traveled road. So it's gonna take years and years and years for the cars to, do any damage out there because it's not getting, but maybe 30, 40 cars a day or something, it's a, next slide. This is kind of showing, around the curve, and there's a large guardrail, chevron signs and stuff where there is no guardrail. But again, pavement's good. One more time. Next slide. This is where we have a little bit of a drainage issue that was coming off the road. So we sandbagged it, but what it was doing was taking the dirt that was on the embankment there and washing it down that hill and stuff like that. So we've got more to discuss about that a little bit later in the report here. Next one. Then there's the pavement ends, and then you got about a half a mile section that goes down to, I think it's called Fuhold Street down in Temecula, where it connects back up again, stuff like that. So next slide. All right, so there are a few things that we can do that are, pretty simple and easy and not costly. There are a couple of fire hydrants out there that need some blue markers added, so they can be found at night.
Right.
And there's some weeds that can be cleared away from one of them. A couple of additional signs for those curves, especially on the downhill side, because there's no signs out there right now for any sort of speed limit or anything like that. So unless you're familiar with the road, you wouldn't know what speed.
Have there been any accidents on that road?
To be honest with you, there's not many accidents in the whole
Yeah,
district, you know,
sure.
I mean, it's just, you know, these low volume streets, the chances of you even
Now.
seeing another car coming the other way while you're on, them, you know, it's like kind of slamming them, you know, so unless you just aren't paying attention, you drive off or something like that, you know, but accident history out here has been good. We don't have any sort of regulatory speed limit. That's another possibility that we could look at. There is a
So that
section,
means it's by definition 55.
well, it's whatever the road will allow, so that could be up to that. But again, the curves aren't posted, so, you know, that might be the way to start. It's just, let's post a couple of those 20-mile-an-hour curves and let people know
Mhm.
that this is the speed you need to go, you know. And they can make up for it when they get on the dirt road. Last time. So there is a section out there, back where that drainage ditch is, that you saw, the drainage issue.
Mhm.
That what we could do there is on the northerly side of the road, we could pave out about a 4-foot section of the shoulder. And then basically strike the road to go onto that 4 feet and pull it away from that edge, because that edge is getting close,
yeah.
close to the edge where the traffic is. And those pictures are a little deceiving. Those lanes are only about 8.5 or 9 feet wide.
Okay,
Yeah.
You know, you try to keep about 10 or 11 if you can.
right.
So this 100-foot section of roadway to repave and restripe is probably in the $9,000 or $10,000 type of range, you know, to do. But that would be a way to kind of address that issue. if that's something-
And would it make sense if we were to do some work there to try to add asphalt as a drain control or erosion control along that area that's washing
Yeah,
out?
on the opposite side, you could put an AC berm there.
Right.
And that, so that, and then take the sandbags out, and that would keep the water, because once it gets a little bit farther down the 100 feet, then the slope of the road is back towards the mountainside.
Yeah.
And so all the water then runs that way, like that. So that's just that one little section there that.
Oh, you had it on there, of course, okay.
Yeah. So, next slide. Going down the line, I mean, there's other things you could do, you know, of course, is you could talk to Temecula and see if there's any chance they're ever gonna pave that section of the roadway that, you know, our residents would have to do. There is about 440 feet of a curve, you know, there's 2 curves out there. One curve has a guardrail and that you saw in the picture. One doesn't, one has there's just the Chevron signs up. So if funding is available sometime down the line, that 400 feet of thing might be, you know, $50,000 kind of thing like that to put in somewhere like that. So
But that 440 feet is where the AC berm's gonna go, right?
yeah, back
So,
up.
so there's 400 now and yeah, adding 440, that would be, no, there's nowhere to put it.
Just
Maybe back up.
Jessica, can you back up the slides about 3 or 4 slides to go back to the picture?
Yeah.
Or keep going, keep going, or keep going. Okay, so that's the 440 feet curve. It starts, I'm in the kind of the beginning of the curve. It starts, it goes past that pole all the way down to that, but it's a long curve there that has no guardrail. Back up one more.
It is kind of pretty significant.
This is the first curve, and it has the berm up and it also has a guardrail, you know, so it's just.
And where is the washout compared to the second?
They're in sequential order. This is the one that's closest to Via Gorion.
Uh-huh.
The next slide. Next slide. This is now another 200 to 400 feet down the road. Then we get to the second curve. Then the next slide. Then you get to this area here.
How much farther is that? Another similar distance or?
Oh,
So,
there's
This
no
is
shoulder
your-
on this one.
pardon?
There's no shoulder whatsoever here.
Right. That's where we're talking about moving the road to the north.
Right.
Yeah. So that we get away from that. So the driver.
But so there, you wouldn't put in a guardrail then.
No, because that's a straight. That's a
And you're
straight
gonna
shot.
have you have the berm.
You just have an
and
AC
you're gonna
berm there to
move
keep the water.
over 4 feet.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the berm would take the place of the sandbags because it'd be more permanent. Those are starting to, rot after.
Okay.
the
I'm
sun.
presuming that the erosion is similar to the length of exposed pipe.
I don't remember seeing it ever where the embankment was all the way out. If the pipe, I don't know how much the pipe stuck out originally. I've been here, 4.5 years and, but it's definitely gone back another, couple of feet over the years here, so. But I don't know if the pipe originally was fully covered or if it was just, maybe partly stuck out, because.
I think it was a little stuck out, just not as much. I remember having,
Yeah.
it was, it took-
About where you see that green grass.
Yeah.
And where the pipe is kind of sitting on the ledge right there in the, that's about where that shoulder used to be. It used to be a good, 3 to 4 foot of shoulder there. And then that a
Yeah.
couple of feet is washed off. But it doesn't take very much water to kind of get that,
no.
So while it may not be immediate, obviously at some point we need to do something about that.
Yeah.
Or it's just going to continue to work its way across.
Yeah.
Is that a fair assessment?
The diverting of with the AC berm, but.
Yeah, right.
That's a cheap solution, easy solution. It's only 100 feet of curving, that would make that more permanent. Then the water, like I said, once you get past that point, then the road, it starts tilting the other way. The crosslope is different, and then it goes back towards the other side of the road. So then all the water will just go onto the mountainside.
Out of curiosity, with the rains that are coming, will it make it worse? Do we have to put any little cones or anything there for safety right now, or?
No.
Okay. I just don't want it to fall off.
This has taken 4 or 5 years to go from,
Yeah,
this much.
Mhm.
Okay, so I mean, it's one rain isn't
Okay.
gonna change that right now.
Yeah, we need to sort
And
out
again,
the
you got-
priorities of this and other work, but at some point we probably need to
Yeah,
address
but
it.
if they're gonna be out there moving that road over,
Mhm.
that'd be the time to do this from the other side. It's minimal cost to add to it, and they're already mobilized.
Okay.
So, okay, let's go back to the.
One of the things you said raised a question in my mind. Do we have any sort of a relationship with Temecula that we would be able to have a conversation about sharing or what their intention is with this particular road?
Yeah,
Are there people down there that we normally work with or?
I used to work there, so I can
Okay.
certainly.
Okay.
knock
So
on-
you know the
knock on
people
some
that are
doors,
there.
call some people and
Yeah.
poke around and see if there's any interest and, and
We
that.
talked to them when there's issues,
Yeah.
but on this, I don't think there's any desire by either party to improve that road.
Yeah.
Because the people who use it now are not people that we probably want using it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
A lot of kids, they're coming out of.
It's not the local residents that are using the road. It's,
There's just not a lot of anybody using the road, it's just it's kind of a separation between the two areas. And nobody crosses the line much, but, but there are a few that are good, but it'd be more of it, you ever thought about, if there was some sort of evacuation needed or anything like that, maybe, then do you want them going down that half-mile dirt road that's, not necessarily well-maintained?
Right.
That may be just an option too, is just throw a little bit more decomposed granite or something on it, kind of thing, and just make it at least a little more passable.
Yeah.
So that you're not, it's 5 miles an hour in these ruts and all that kind of stuff like that.
that area is
Start on the-
fairly overgrown, isn't it? Isn't there quite a bit of brush and I may be thinking.
I mean, not right against the part of the roadway, but
No, I'm thinking
All
of
around
the,
it.
I'm thinking
Surrounding
of tires
area.
and that sort of
oh,
thing.
yeah, the
The
hillside,
area
yeah.
would be
Yeah,
subjected
it's-
to.
There's those national Riverside
Yeah.
Conservancy signs out there too, so, yeah. So,
Yeah, I think the Temecula people don't want to encourage more people out in that area.
Yeah,
The residents around Boreon and all, I think would be pretty up in arms if we did anything to draw more people from Temecula.
they don't want people coming through that way.
Yeah.
yeah, I'm really thinking in terms of a egress.
Yeah,
path
right,
or
yeah.
Fire or other
Mhm.
issues.
Yeah, that to me seems to be like more like kind of the use of this road. It's
Yeah.
just an outlet.
Yeah.
I wouldn't treat it like an inlet or a back and forth type thing, but this is just an outlet that, emergency conditions, I think, it gives you an opportunity if you're blocked going another way, that this allows you to get off the mountain, and
Yeah.
stuff like that, but at least make the road passable, There's some place.
But
give
right
them a
now,
plan.
most people in Duluth, if there was an emergency situation, they could get through there
Yeah,
with the vehicles that.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I've used
Yeah.
that road when
Yeah.
I've had to. And that, it ends you right down by the apartments.
Right,
Over,
right.
yeah. So it's not a hard road to use. It's just no one prefers it because,
Right.
yeah, but I mean, I remember one time there was a fire on Rancho and we went up that way.
yeah, okay. All right, so next slide. So Los Gatos,
Mm.
y'all probably ever take a drive up and down that?
I have.
Fun of it?
Mhm.
I have.
Yeah, so we've got multiple signs, warning that, hey, this is a steep road. Unless you got the right kind of vehicle and everything like that, you should avoid kind of going this way if you don't have to and
Yeah.
stuff like that. We added that weight limit a few years ago, stuff like that to try to encourage people to, stick to it. Next slide. Southern Cal Edison beat us to it. They got their sign up before we got our signs up, telling their employees, absolutely, you don't go up and down that road if you've got this much weight, 26,000 pounds or something like that is their limit.
Mhm.
They don't want them, doing that. So plenty of signs out there is what we're saying to warn people that this is windy curves, 15, 20 mile an hour type curves, steep grade.
Mhm.
You can't miss the signs. It's so oversigned, It's got good paving and it's got good striping and everything like that. It even has edge lines and all that kind of stuff like that. So for anyone that's using it with due care, it's a.
Yeah, I've driven it at night and it's reasonable if you control your speed.
Yeah, you gotta ride your brakes coming down and you gotta be on the pedal going up, so that, but this is a picture at the top of the hill where there's an opportunity to potentially create a little turnaround. You could kind of do is see the dirt on the right-hand side.
Yes.
Shave it down to make it level with the pavement.
Yes.
And the picture didn't go quite far enough, but there's a similar kind of shoulder on the left-hand side that's in a little bit of a hill, a little bit of a dip. So you just take the dirt one side, put it on the other side, flatten it out, and you could have yourself about a 50 or 60 foot wide, turnaround and stuff like that. So if somebody does get down there, not familiar with the road, decides, okay, I'm not gonna go down, it's too dark, too this, too whatever. They at least could, turn around there instead. of
One of the
turning-
issues I actually ran into in that area is the lack of cellular coverage limits the effectiveness of some of the GPS, particularly phone-related GPS systems. So if you're on the path that GPS has laid out for you to travel, everything is fine. When you deviate from that path and it needs to upgrade the path or update the path through the cellular network, it's not able to do that.
Okay.
And so redirecting someone when they get to that point, if they don't know where to go, could be problematic as well.
Not only that, when someone loses their GPS, the first thing they do is fiddle with their phone while they're driving.
We can do it the old fashioned way, put a one of those little state boxes out there with a little flyer in it and I have a little map. If you're turning around, take one of these, this will help you get back to where you want to go.
Yeah.
They have those, up on the Carrancho post boxes.
Okay.
Some of the residents.
Oh, I didn't know
Actually
that.
put
It's-
those maps in there.
There's a map there, say,
We print them for them. This goes way back, right, Jessica?
good idea.
They come in and want to copy the maps. And what you're talking about is exactly what they do.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've had people stop while I was at the post, picking up mail and say, how in the world do I get out of here?
Yeah.
Been by here 3 times. How do I get out?
So maybe that's the feature we added.
There you go.
Actually,
Yeah.
And you can take the maps and refill it once in a while.
All right, so next slide. This is farther into Tanaha. This is the next really nice place to turn around because it's the bend on the curve. And again, the picture doesn't do it justice because but you can go up there and just make a nice big sweeping U-turn right there. And again, shows there's multiple signs. This is a quarter mile.
We put those signs up
Yeah, yeah,
originally before
Yeah.
I came.
yeah.
That's probably, about 8 years ago, I would guess.
And we've got signs not on this side of the road, but we've got signs on the other side of the road too. So again, you can't miss it, you know.
So previous boards have addressed this problem, and that was their solution,
Yeah,
was to move it toward Tanaha so that there were turnarounds, and then we added to it a few years ago by putting it further down. There's really no turnaround though, but we wanted to try, because it wasn't, we had people that were ignoring these, so the thought was, well, let's put more signs.
yeah. This is a logical place to turn around,
So,
especially if you're.
That's not our road, that's.
That's not our road. Yeah, it's a quarter mile or so outside of our limits, but that's why we put the signs there.
so signs were gonna be a solution if there were a problem there. Well, if there have been problems, there are signs, lack of signs was not the problem.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no lack of signs. Yeah, because if you see the next slide, then we get right to the top of the hill coming back down and they got more signs, same thing,
Mhm.
Next one. Again, 5-ton weight limit, I mean, we're telling them all the way down, but you're really sure you want to do this, Yeah. Talking about the accident history, we know of at least 3 accidents that
Yeah.
have gone down the hill that, had this,
There's no uphill accidents.
yeah.
Right.
Lose their brakes and all that. So some thoughts are, to consider maybe is that turnaround at the top, that I checked with our guys that are doing these projects that Ron's doing and just.
And it is on our part of the road,
That's in ours. Yeah, yeah. That grading of that shoulder.
and we have the sufficient
Right.
easements to.
Yeah, yeah, we will
Allow it.
20 feet on each side, so we got a 20-foot wide road and 20 feet each side, we have nice, good sized turnaround. And anyway, his contractor threw out a price that, somewhere maybe between, $4,000 and $5,000, he could move that dirt pretty easily and stuff like that, so.
Does that include asphalt?
No, that was just the dirt, just to get the dirt over, like baby steps.
Got it.
And of course, there are some advisory speed signs that we could put on that first curve that's south of La Via. There's no sign right there to tell anybody that, there's a curve coming up here, stuff like that DJ's crew can do. We looked at other things, one-way streets or, don't allow any trucks to go downhill, all that kind of stuff like that. There's a variety of issues with each of those,
Yeah, sure.
They're not, panacea solutions, they kind of create, I think, I know you had a suggestion, you talk about maybe a height limitation. Problem with that might be is what height do you pick to limit? Because if you gotta get a utility truck in for, something to do work, or you gotta get an agricultural truck in, or you gotta get a fire truck in, or,
That
whatever
would be
that.
the big concern, yeah.
By the time you get the height high enough for any of those kind of things maybe to clear, every vehicle pretty much can get down, can come down the hill. I mean, so like a low bridge, 10-foot high type of low bridge or something like that, only passenger cars and pickup trucks and stuff like that be able to make it through, and a big cement truck would not be able to go through it or something like that. It would work for something like that. But when you include some of the utility vehicles, that have to work on the wires and that kind of stuff like that. it
Do they
might-
use that road though? Because I mean, some of those are
Well,
pretty,
I'm saying that, there's a couple homes out there, so if they have to get out there and
Hmm.
provide some sort of service or this or that.
Well, the obvious
Edison-
thing is fire trucks.
Edison's saying they just won't let them use any trucks over 26,000 pounds, but they have trucks that are taller than a pickup truck.
I mean, I wouldn't bring a fire truck down that hill. Yeah, so,
So, you know, and or if there's an evacuation, there could be, you know, again, same, thing. So it starts, maybe be a little more complex.
We can go deeper into each of these issues,
Yeah.
but I think, as I talked to Steve before this meeting, like, where are we going with these? And I think the idea is to have some discussion, you know, is it worth, you know, do we want to go deeper? Or, you know, like I like your comments regarding signs, okay? So here's some other alternatives. We can spend a lot of time and effort, but I think that today, the idea is just throw them out on the table and kind of see.
Yeah.
What, you know, we.
Well, as we launched into this, part of the idea was to see if the professional community had solutions that we didn't know about, I think.
Right.
And I think a part of what I'm hearing
You
is
did
there's
the
not,
little maps and the little.
that's.
Yeah,
It's not obvious that there are any obvious solutions out there, even from folks that focus on this as a career.
yeah, I think you have, I mean, obviously budget is a big issue, you know, so if you have unlimited funds, you know, it's a different story, but when we're sitting in a budgetary situation like you have, you've got some low hanging fruit that you could do that could make some improvements that will help. But you've got, you know, maybe some of these kind of things that could be.
So part of the
Out of your
problem
budget, you know.
would appear to be, or it seems like it may be likely, is that folks aren't believing or adhering to the signs. They're driving too fast. Is that a fair?
Oh,
Ignoring.
the accidents, that's. those are the cars.
I think the issue is they see the sign, but they think that's not gonna be a problem because they'll just, you know, use their brakes. But, you know, 26% is, that's a steep hill. Okay,
That's
you have to be, you have to be on, and then of course, if you use your brakes too much and your brakes give out, you know, of course, and then you got too much weight, you know, that's the other thing you gotta be careful is that, you know, for a
So
passenger. car,
traditional speed control, like speed bumps or that sort of thing, may not be any real help, because if the brakes are gone, the brakes are gone.
Yeah, we don't really want to launch them into the air. That might defeat the guardrail then if they fly over the top of it. Yeah, so,
But you tossed out a number of a guardrail, because I'd never really gotten a straight answer. How much is a guardrail cost? Because we haven't put one up since I've been here.
Yeah.
But what's the number?
So if you're looking at a guardrail out here in Duluth right now for a small project like this, you're probably gonna go around probably about $100 a linear foot just for that area. And it's, you know, there's guardrails built for cheaper than that, but not in the hillside, not, you know.
Is a guardrail effective against a cement truck?
What's that?
Is a guardrail effective against a cement truck
no.
or an overweight truck?
I mean, no, I mean, it'll help, I mean, it'll limit it, but it's, you know, a guardrail is not meant to, you know, completely keep you back in. It's collapsible for the most part. Like, it's meant to just kind of throw you back on course. It's not gonna,
It's supposed to burn up
so,
energy.
for the most part, yes, but it's meant to be collapsible because you don't want it to be, you know, a
Right.
real hazard, I guess. So it's meant to, you know, collapse a little bit, but when something that big hits it, it may not.
My concern was just that the people that have accidents, if their truck tips over, that we have to pay for it.
Right.
Maybe there's a way to put a sign up that says, you know, flashing, if you tip, it's on you and we're not responsible, and put a camera out there so we can prove that they saw the signs, they drove up to it, they still went down, and they, you know, so this way we don't have to keep paying for it. And that's, I don't know, just an idea.
Well, that's $300,000.
Yeah, that's a lot of money. And if they keep, you know, doing
Yeah.
that,
Yeah, that, I mean, like say, if you have a 5-ton weight limit or something like that, and you see something goes down there, you know, 13 tons or 20 tons or something like that. Like, well, what were you thinking? Then you got them on camera.
yeah, like, you know, those signs that say, if you know, do this, the camera's on, da, 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 da.
Video enforcement.
Video enforcement,
camera,
something.
Something like that.
So that'll give a little bit of discouragement, and then have a turnaround area. Maybe they'll turn around.
Yeah,
That's creative.
that, now, the cameras and lights and all that, unfortunately, it just betters your case. It becomes a civil case then, and collect our money back. We're limited as a district to the amount of fine. Because one way you could do it, if you were in the state, for example,
Mhm.
is you could say that the fine is $250,000 or whatever. Unfortunately, I think our highest fine is 500 as a district.
Oh.
So like, what we do, you know, it doesn't exactly stop anybody from doing anything. And like,
That's 3 gallons of gas that make the driver on.
right, yeah, but like they tip their truck over,
Yeah.
the driver disappears to wherever, okay? And then the company says, well, hey, it was the driver's bad driving. He ignored the sign, so we're not paying you back. Duluth.
Mhm.
So then Duluth has to file a lawsuit against them. And then we burn up another $100,000 in legal fees, you know? And then you get a judgment and then the company probably will end up going bankrupt. So no matter how you slice it, the Duluth taxpayers are insuring all that.
So then that's when then you look at, back up one slide if you could as well. No, backwards. You're going
Backwards, other way.
Go back 2 slides now.
If you right click and hit that previous button,
All right, now you're going here. No, never mind.
Mhm.
Don't keep going. Okay.
Where's just here?
So, if you look at a one-way street as an example, then that might be a way to prohibit. If you look at cul-de-sacing the top of the hill,
Okay.
so that I can't come from Tenaha and come back in. So if I'm a resident, I get to go out and take the shortcut or whatever to the freeway if I want to drive through Tenaha and down to, Clinton Keys and get on the freeway. I don't have to go back through the traffic, or something like that. But I can't come home that way. I gotta come home via Marietta and Duluth or whatever like that if I want to come home, kind of stuff like that. But so, one more time if you could.
Okay. One-way street at the top of the
So,
hill.
so one-way street at the top of the hill would be that way. Cul-de-sacing the top of the hill, putting a gate at the top of the hill. I mean, all the different things you could do. If you don't give access, I mean,
You can't do the gate.
well, that's what I'm saying. Those are all the things that are traditionally, proposed and stuff like that. And then you have to look at each one of those and say, how is this actually gonna work? How do you make it a one-way street? If you just have it signed, do not enter or anything like that, people are gonna drive right by it, and then, so then you gotta put spike strips up there or something.
But you gotta remember, what's the counts, 160?
Yeah, like 150,
Both ways,
160 cars a
80,
day, so that's 75 go out, 75 come in, kind of thing like that.
And as far as the office is concerned, we probably know a pretty substantial number of those people because they make comments about that road. So if we looked at a map, there's that far westerly, it's north of you guys, but it was your area too. Your neighbors are using that to come and go.
Some of them, yeah.
Because, especially the men.
I mean, if I have to go to a listing appointment in La Cresta, I'm gonna go that way, then go down the hill.
Exactly.
So,
But people are using it to get to like Riverside or into LA, because I hear it in their conversations. Because they always say, when we're talking about other things, oh, Los Gatos,
Well,
that's.
I could tell you from experience that when the freeway's backed up, and I know this because people say, oh, I'm coming to see your house, it will take them through that way. It'll take them through Marietta, the Waze app.
Yeah.
And because the people go, I never expected, I didn't know this is the biggest hill I've ever, and
There
so
you
you
go.
would never think that, but it does reroute them that way.
Yeah, I've been redirected that
Yep.
way and no, I mean, I'm not going there.
Yeah, well, if you know, great, but if you
Like 7
don't,
o'clock at night, I'm not going over
If-
there.
if-
That's
if-
part of the problem.
if you don't, you're,
The Waze app again.
yeah, if you don't, then you're going, oh, okay, I'll go this way, and then when you're up there, you're stuck. So,
Presumably, those apps would update if it were a one-way though and eliminate
They
that.
would.
It would, so that could, because where I was leading is, right now, we're just having a general discussion, right? But if we start fleshing out some of these ideas, you're gonna get public input, I guarantee.
mhm,
And especially any limit, either way.
Yeah.
Because it's a pretty substantial difference in their drives.
Oh,
And
yes.
where they're going. So if we said one way only, well, then one trip a day, they've got to go around, you're gonna hear from people. Just based on conversation, I don't even know their names.
no, I agree. I-
So we got to keep that in mind too.
Right.
We got 80 trips going. But I forgot about the Waze app because one of the accidents, I suspect the accidents we're talking about, except for those cement mixer, the one, the fatality. But all the rest of them I've heard about have been people who aren't from here.
Mhm.
And like the tow truck driver that took
Yeah.
the person who had the accident in their car, the car's on the back of a tow truck. And he was from Long Beach and went down that hill
Yeah,
with all that weight. And
well,
You know,
a lot of
it never
times
should
they,
have happened.
they don't know, because they are not from here, but,
so he gets up to the top, he saw the signs. He's on the clock. And so he,
you know when that was happening a lot, was, do you remember Poppygate up the freeway? I call it Poppygate.
yes, yeah.
Okay, when the
Oh.
poppies were in bloom,
Oh, yeah,
Years
yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
they were rerouting everyone because the traffic was backed up because of poppies, through La Cresta and around. And that's when yeah,
Wow.
and there were so many people that I met said that they came through Los Gatos and La Cresta, yeah. You remember the poppies?
Oh, yes.
I call it Poppygate.
I think it was 19 when we had the washout.
Yeah,
I
could
think
be,
it was
could
that,
be,
because
but,
it rained so hard
I
that
mean-
winter, and then the spring came.
yeah, it was a one-time thing where you'd be on the did you guys witness any of this? You were on the freeway, there'd be people out of the sunroof sitting on top filming. Amazing. Poor people in Lake Elsinore, I felt so sorry for them. It was terrible. Some lady got bit by a rattlesnake and she was posing.
So like Jim said, this is just to kind of just flesh
Yeah.
out some of the initial ideas that, you know.
Yeah,
and-
Yeah, I don't think we're the solution yet.
No,
You know,
but we got some ideas, that's
But
good.
you can see there's gonna be a variety of things. I mean, from just putting up an extra sign or some reflectivity on a guardrail or putting up a
Yeah.
guardrail or something to full scale, some major
And
stuff.
public opinion, yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
that's gonna take on, a longer life, and so.
But
the
any
whole-
guardrail of any significance is gonna be extremely expensive.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at, that's about 1,800 or 2,000 feet of guardrail, and if it's $100 a foot, that's, $250,000 roughly, and stuff, and then, like you say, the effectiveness of it is, that is to, can I say, redirect a passenger vehicle to
Mhm.
glance off of it
Mhm.
and pull them back into the roadway. A large, heavy, overweight truck is just gonna mow it down and go right.
I saw,
you know,
I saw you had the
Because
option
it's a
of,
low-
oh, sorry, Jim.
No, I'm
just thinking out loud. I was saying, I saw the one runaway truck ramp. Do those work? I've never had those.
Well, they work, those are generally on like a freeway.
Okay.
And stuff like that, and you.
Yeah,
I see
you
them
have to
on,
get it on somebody's property over there.
The 5 freeway going through Castaic or something like that. If they use their brakes, then they can pull over on the shoulder, and the shoulder's just a bunch
Yeah.
of thick gravel. then they just,
Burns up the energy.
they just burn up all the energy, they slow down on the thick gravel, but there's not really a lot of room out there. You
No.
almost have to do grading on the hillside
Or on someone's
and
property.
move the road over to
Exactly.
create a truck ramp on the embankment side.
Right.
And then it's like, oh gosh, I'm trying to go into an,
I just have visions of it flying off the truck. Okay. Thank you.
so,
Hmm.
all right.
Yeah,
So
obviously we need to consider it more, but I'm not sure what the path is to the further consideration. I don't think we're ready to raise anything to the full board yet.
What about the turnaround? It sounds like we could probably do that fairly effectively, quickly without spending too much money, right?
yeah, I mean, he was giving us the price of like, $4,000 or $5,000 to go grade that. So if you want to take an active step and just say that's something you want to look at, really, that way there, you've done something to say, hey, even if you were that.
On the radar sign on Sandia, does that gather data?
No, well, yeah, I can, but we haven't.
Can it be coupled with a camera?
Camera to,
Record whoever the data was being taken from? In other words, is there a practical way for us to limit liability, since we may not be able to limit action by folks using the road? We can notify with signs, and what we're talking
Lights.
about with the turnaround and whatnot is just another version of the signs, I think.
Say turn around now, something,
Yeah,
don't attempt turn around.
But to be effective, there needs to be some means of enforcement, and I'm wondering if some middle road cost, like a radar speed checking sign coupled with a traffic recording camera that would both notify the driver and record for our purposes the event.
they make those kinds of cameras, like, my community I live in, we have a trailer, it's a portable trailer.
Mhm.
It'll issue a ticket, it'll film the last 3 or 4 seconds approaching and then film the next couple of seconds, beyond. And it'll have a video recording, it'll have a snapshot, and give it a license plate, all that kind of stuff like
That's
that.
great.
So we can then use that to mail tickets out.
Do we have authority for that sort of thing?
Well, the tickets we couldn't do.
That's the problem for
But
you guys, because you got.
The case in court,
You got a
although if you
database,
point out that
You can't issue tickets in California with, camera. He can because those are private streets.
Yeah, because we're private streets, so we know who the person is because they got called in on a pass or something like that, so we got the license plate.
They went a couple of years, because, they were using them all out where I live, all the cities, Cathedral City and all of us were using them. And you just get a ticket in the mail with a picture of you blowing the red light or
Yeah.
whatever. And now the legislature wiped that out.
I have it on good knowledge that Arizona uses those.
Oh,
Arizona,
yeah,
Big time.
yeah.
Speed
But-
feedback signs, so we'll
Yeah.
display the speed and we'll, display a message to slow down or things like that, so you can do that too.
We're not really looking to generate revenue from it. We're looking to prevent damage to
Right.
Discouragement.
the
But
taxpayers here
I think
paying
you
for.
probably could get a
We would have.
CCTV camera up there though to record it, just so that if there is an accident, you
Right,
have,
you
at least have it on recording.
guys.
You may not have their exact speed or anything like that, but you could certainly see if they were.
Do you have access to the companies that provide that kind of equipment to be able to give us some sort of
Sure.
estimate of the cost? Why don't we do that and see what that might
And-
involve?
Yeah, that cost has been coming down a lot.
Yeah, the
So.
quality of the equipment has just gone up so dramatically over the last few years that,
Yeah, I think I think we paid like $16,000 or $17,000 for the trailer. That's a whole setup on a trailer, everything issued. I mean, if you want to just get a sign that's just flashing and tells you what your speed and stuff like that. I mean, they're down maybe by $3,000 to $5,000.
And the recording of the event so that you catch the license plate and the sign saying you're going too fast and all of that
And maybe you were
10
saying
minutes before the accident occurs.
we have a limit on a fine. So can you put on there like subject to, fine and possible?
You could.
Yeah, I mean, just to discourage, you don't have to tell them how much. But I mean, to me, when people see they're gonna be charged, it kind of wakes them up a little bit.
Yeah.
Just-
We should post the price of a casket, and then sell it back off.
Yeah, 25 grand.
You can't afford to go down there.
I like that.
Yeah. Let's see what it would take to do that.
Yeah, and that was kind of the intention this is just to provoke discussion.
Yeah.
No,
And then just see where we think we want to go, and then we can keep,
All right.
address these things time like that.
Okay.
Okay, so next slide. Next. slide. Yeah, so next steps was, obviously, we were gonna try to come back and do the last for your, but I heard something about no meeting, board meeting maybe in November.
December.
Huh?
December.
Okay, so that may be January then,
Yeah.
Okay, so, yeah, all right. And then just some other traffic stuff, I'll just go on to the next one here, traffic matters is.
Yes, please.
We're working with, the county of Riverside about, putting these nice Duluth type
Yes.
signs, vintage signs that we got. They're like, yeah, no problem, we'll work it out. You just, get to take an encroachment permit and stuff like that, and, he can go out and install it and stuff like that, so it's
Very good.
it's just a matter of us picking and deciding what we want.
I think it shows a bit of public pride in the area, and it's a little nicer than just the roadside.
Yeah,
You're now entering Duluth.
yeah, and a sign, that kind of a sign is a lot cheaper than putting up a big monument wall and
Yeah, right.
all that kind of stuff, and
Mm.
or you can do like PGA West, they spent, about $500,000 for their entry sign with the waterfall and all the other stuff, and it's just kind of like, come on.
We'll plan on having covered.
So we know that the county will let us do it.
Yeah.
We just have to do paperwork. Now, we're in the process of coming up with costs and sizing and placement.
Kind of
So next
finalize.
meeting, we should have something
Yeah,
more
we
specific.
can finalize the design a little bit and the size and then, what would the cost be in the potential locations is. I went out and took some snapshots today of some of the locations, and if the county will let us put it on some of their existing 2-post signs that they have out
okay.
there, they have the Riverside County limits, we can put it right below that kind of a thing like that. Then we don't even have to spend money for concrete or posts or anything like that. It's just a couple of screws and stuff like that. And then there's other places where the shoulders, you saw that, the Streetbow embankment. Well, that's what Duluth Road and some of those have, like in Racal have that kind of embankment. So
Mhm.
probably X-nay on the embankment side and put it on the mountain side, on the left-hand side of the road, kind of stuff like that where we can, squeeze it. So we'll go into that in detail. So, next slide. Also, we contacted Marietta traffic engineer, and they're gonna paint red curb at our exit driveway here on Date Street.
Right here.
Right
Oh,
here.
okay.
They were parking, there's somebody that's got lots of vehicles and they've been parking right up to the turn-in.
Mm.
And so people coming out, like for meetings,
Yeah.
you
it
cannot
gets-
see.
Right. Can't see.
So, Steve.
There was red curb there for the fire hydrant, but even if that was repainted, there's enough room between that red curb and the curb return.
Yeah.
That a car could sneak in, and then of course it's right in your view, so you
Right.
can't see. So he's all agreeable to do the whole section of it, 54 feet of it, so
Okay, great.
that should be coming as soon as it dries.
Since
out.
we own this building, it helped our neighborhood.
Next, and then at Ron's pre-con meeting, we met and we talked about traffic control, and you got to see in his presentation.
Right.
They're doing a good job with that, and of course, we'll inspect the final striping and everything like that they put down, and then, like I said, one of those, give us a bid for that turnaround if you guys decide you want to take a look at that, like that, so while they're out here, they're right at Buena Vista, so they're right down the street from Los Gatos, so it works out for them, kind of thing, so just let us know if that's a desire, and that's my, report.
Thanks, Steve. Field crew report.
All right, thank you.
I'm searching for his presentation. I apologize. Please give me one moment. Myself again.
All right, so we've been going around the district, laying down these yellow RPMs. There's a bunch missing. I don't even know if we're halfway done, but the rain doesn't help because we got to heat up those black tack pads, so that stopped the progression on that. Next slide, please.
About how many have you done so far?
I'd probably say about probably 200 or 200 or more, and we still probably got another 3+. So,
And these look so easy until you have to replace one. It takes a while for each one, doesn't it?
no, it's pretty quick. It's just,
You gotta stop
they-
traffic and
yeah, well, we're lucky that that gate's up now, so there's not very much traffic. And with our third guy that we got, also helps us for traffic control, while the other two are just laying down. Doesn't take too long to lay it down, just heat up, tack real quick, place the yellow RPM down, and then just the adhesion just melts together, and then on to the next one.
And the beauty of those is that's all you see at night when there's rain.
Yeah,
That-
right.
That paint disappears, and so you
Sure
utilize those markers, especially if they're on the curve, because that's sometimes where they end up missing, is on the curve, and they get bumped off, so.
Yeah, it's good we're doing it now, especially for the rain. Obviously, visibility isn't as good as it was. And on the RPMs, there's like, since they're brand new, the reflective is like,
Really
you
good.
can tell from the old one
Yeah.
to the new one.
Yeah.
This was last board meeting. We weren't able to make it because of this tree right here on Vita Los Ventos, kind of in the way there. We actually had to get help from Dylan. It was just the trunk and stuff was just way too big for our chipper to be able to even chip it up and disperse it. So we gave him a call to come give us a hand. Sign down on Sycamore Mesa leaning, so stood that upright. This was called in by one of the residents right on that street.
What's true, Sam?
Sycamore Mesa.
Yeah.
I think that one actually fell back down again today because all the rain and wind, so saw a couple more signs back down again, so. Just tree trimming on Avenue and Tiara. Obviously, these trees are coming into the roadway, I'm trying to push them off of the way so cars don't have to go into the other side of the lane. So there won't be no accidents, traffic can just flow regularly. This is some cold mix pothole patching on Cali Capistrano. That road is always, it's super thin over there, so there's always potholes, just always. So did a few of those. Yes, and that was it. Any questions?
No. just have, you got a lot more signs down now.
Everyone's
Great. It's like, oh.
Yeah, I was making a list, put them down. We drive around the corner and oh, there's a tree.
Yeah.
Start cutting that up, moving it off the side.
One of the things that they are doing though is the old signs all have those wooden posts in,
I saw that.
and they get,
Yeah.
you're gonna see most of the ones you see go down are the ones that would post, because they get rotted, and then they get weak, and then the wind blows. And so if the dirt is loose, it just pulls it
Yeah.
over, but if it's not, it'll just snap, with the wind like that. So new signs are being put on the metal posts and stuff like that.
Great.
So they're anchored in there pretty good. So they're not gonna go anywhere. So we're making that conversion from the
Good.
thinking from 10 or 20 years ago to present day thinking. So
Fire safety too.
Jim, any,
Well, I just have,
Permit.
we voted today, correct?
yes,
All right. There's an issue going around, and we're gonna have, I asked Ward yesterday to make a report at the next board meeting. But his is gonna be a little bit more generic, but, single family zoning, as you probably heard, passed away last 2 weeks ago up in Sacramento, when Gavin Newsom signed the bill that there is no more single family zoning. And I think they actually did that a year ago, but the bill that's most recently signed takes, removes from any CCNRs any prohibition for multifamily affordable housing on any R1 lots. So,
I thought that depended on area too.
they've pretty much made it's statewide now.
Okay.
So these things are slow to happen, all right? And so there was reported that a mental health facility was the result of a phone call to the sheriff's last week. And when the sheriff arrived, and then Sam called me about it, or I called him, I guess, I heard about it. I said, well, when you went in there, there's 5 patients, there's staff there, and there's permits. And I said, well, do tell, who issued the permits? State of California.
Mhm.
So that went in when I was 25 years ago. Daycare centers, mental health, rehab, all kinds of those are, anyway, they're here. And it's causing problems for people who are neighboring that, because they didn't even know it was there. So anyway, I suspect there's more than this one, but the question was, what can we do? Well, it's not a CSD issue, because they never gave us zoning, they gave us rules,
mhm,
But they can go to code enforcement, because I know when we were having trouble as a city with daycare, we could have some regulation about like the traffic in, traffic out, to pick up the kids, screaming kids, noise. So state's always good about that. Let the locals take care of it with the police and the fire and all that. But they mandate, what you can do and not do, the state. So really, this is just kind of the beginning of the new age. And so that's what I told Ward. I think people have to become more educated as to what the laws are. And then this morning I opened my email, and he'd said, well, we did, our firm did a little summary of all these new bills and laws that have been passed. There were like 19 where they're preempting, And I went to a funeral Saturday with a bunch of city council members and mayors, and they were just totally up in arms, because zoning is gone. Well, we can't have zoning, we have a city, and blah, 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 blah. It'll be years before it actually really kicks in, but I'm just telling you, it's here. So, and it's here in Duluth, I may have told you this as a result of this funeral I went to, because I'm not in city anymore, but, it's here and other issues too, so. But that's not something we, have anything to do with, but, you know, they do call here. We had like 3 calls that day, you know, so. Like,
With the multifamily, do they have a limit on how many, or is it just whatever fits?
whatever fits. So
So,
I'm told, I haven't read,
mm,
it's, yeah,
because that means the apartment building can go next door to you,
sure
basically.
does. That's the idea, is put it back the way when I was
Do
growing
they
up.
have to get extra trash cans?
Well, it's a similar kind of thing, where the state sets the policy.
Yeah,
And it's up to the locals to figure it out.
figure it out, yeah.
So, but yeah, remember back in the old days, well, you know, you're too young. You know, you'd have like a single family house, and next to it, you could have a little apartment house.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then another couple single family apartment. That's what they're trying to go back to. But you also had all the parked cars, you know, up and down the street, because they hadn't, in most cases, made, there wasn't room to get parking onto the lot.
Mhm.
So it's more the urbanization of California, more like.
And
like
and
the East Coast.
our area is septic. You're not,
Well, that's gonna limit that.
Yeah.
But like, because I've been told,
so,
talk.
because I mean, we did apartments in those places. In Hawthorne, you know, like some of those areas.
That's what they're trying to.
And you could do that, but everything was on sewer and done. This is
Right.
rural.
Because then you got the State Water Resources Board, which comes from the same people in Sacramento, that here, that would be a problem, or anywhere that has septic tanks, where I was with Harbor Heights, and that's all septic
Yeah.
tanks too. And, so that will stop it at some point, but I would think if you have 5 acres, you could still get more than just 1 unit.
Yeah, well,
You
that's,
know, you
yeah.
try 1 per acre, something like that, or maybe even 2 per acre septic tanks. I
Depends,
don't know.
depends how that lovely property is, if it's nice or if it's.
Yeah.
A
So
lot of
there's gonna
diseases.
there's gonna be lots of.
You get more from bananas or more from avocados?
Exactly.
That's what's gonna happen.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. It's a long ways down the road, but, there's been a lot of activity. I couldn't believe when I opened this thing from BB&K, just listing all the different bills that have been signed and what the bill's related to, and it's all urbanization kind of stuff. And, holy cow.
Will Ward have a copy of that for us? That'd be interesting.
Yeah, he's gonna talk about it at the board meeting, and I can, I'm gonna tell him, go ahead and send that. out.
Yeah,
Just,
please.
you know.
I'd
A lot
like
of
to
it
see
doesn't
it.
apply to us, a lot doesn't apply to us, but, yeah, these things you watch, you see on the news, and then you think, oh, that's real interesting. You don't think about it until it hits your neighborhood. And so, it's arriving slowly, but it's arriving. So, that's the end of my report.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well, anyone else have anything to bring up? And we're adjourned.
And-
All right.